Hello there! Welcome to the world of Pokémon. My name is Calvin. People call me the Pokémon Prof. This world is inhabited by creatures called Pokémon. For some people, Pokémon are pets. Others use them for fights. Myself, I study Pokémon as a profession. First, what is your name?
I smell.
Right, so your name is I Smell. This is my grandson. He's been your rival since you were a baby. What's his name again?
Dickhead.
That's right, I remember now. His name is Dickhead. Right, guys, your very own Pokemon legend is about to unfold. A world of dreams and adventures with Pokemon awaits. Let's go and talk about Pokemon, ; the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back.
You know what the worst thing is that Calvin wasn't just reading that, he just had that completely memorized. You know what I would have gone with? I would have just gone with, da-na-na. Who's that podcast host?
Oh.
It's Calvin!
Yeah, but
Calvin!
then we wouldn't have...
Calvin!
Yeah, but then we wouldn't have had the opportunity to call each other silly names for the rest of the podcast, assface.
No, I smell.
Oh, sorry, I smell.
Ha, you smell.
Oh no, this backfired on me.
Da-na-na. Who's that other podcast host? It's Alan!
Alan.
That was quite good. So, I think we should let the listeners in on a little secret that this has been ruminating as a possible discussion topic for us for several years now, probably since the start of the podcast. Is that right, Sol?
Yeah, pretty much since the dawn of the show.
Well, no, originally you wanted to do a Pokemon podcast, and I said, look, there's no market for it. Let's be broad.
I tell you what, if we'd done a Pokemon podcast, I think it would be a hell of a lot more successful than this show.
That's not a bad idea, actually.
We go through every single Pokemon in National Dex number order.
What, just talk about
discussing them with Alan, who has no idea what they are.
It doesn't sound too fun for me, though.
Well, I mean, how's that any different to discussing, I don't know, Captain Marvel and Fast and the Furious?
We don't do that every week.
Pretty much.
Well, it feels like it. Anyway,
Satire.
So you are correct, Sol. There, you said Alan doesn't know anything about Pokemon. I'm too old to understand Pokemon.
Well, come on. Give us your best attempt at explaining what Pokemon is.
What, now I've watched the film?
Just all of it. Like, the franchise, what it's about. I'll buzz in whenever you get something wrong.
Okay, I think it originated... I don't know if it originated this, but its primary thing was to be like a card game. Okay. Okay. It involves little cards with pictures on them. There's definitely
like half
Pokemon
right.
cards are a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And you can play games with them and like go, ooh, mine's got strength of 8. It's like Top Trumps, but a bit more complicated, basically.
Yeah.
Which theoretically is something I would be interested in, but like I said, too old. And then there's a cartoon series, and then they did a film based on that.
And what's the broad strokes of the
There's
the
a
story
land where inhabited by creatures called Pokemon. Some people treat them as pets. Some people use them to fight. It's like pit bulls.
Yeah, that's accurate.
What does Pokemon mean, Alan? It's a portmanteau.
Pokemon. I don't know.
What, as in a man in prison?
It probably means something like combat weasel.
You're overthinking it.
I love combat weasel.
What could Mon be short for?
Man.
Oh,
Monty Python. Mon. I don't know. Is it Japanese? I don't know.
No, it's
Japanese.
English. It's English.
Okay.
You know, the Japanese love just taking an English word here and an English word there, so it's
Right.
English. There's only so many words beginning with mon.
Monster.
Yes. So
they're pokey little monsters.
Pokemonsters, Pocket Monsters. What could that be?
Pocket.
Yes. You got
Pocket
that.
monsters.
Pocket Monsters. Yeah.
How many Pokemon could you name?
Me.
Yeah.
The original 151, I would imagine, in order.
Okay, let's actually see what comes to my mind. Okay, Pikachu
Yeah.
is your talismanic one.
Yeah.
Mewtwo is in this film,
Hello,
and I think
my name's Mewtwo.
was the one that that it was whatever.
Yeah. Now's what I'm interested in, what you can remember, because those three, I thought you'd have a grasp.
What has passed into the cultural ether that I've picked up on? Because I can't remember anything else from watching this film. So here we go. Jigglypuff.
Oh, yes.
Jigglypuff, puff, puff.
Charizard.
Yeah.
Slowpoke.
Global. That sounded like Jeffrey Tambor, that one.
Hey now. I think that's it.
Well, this is good because I'm currently, whilst we talk, I should have prepared this better, but I'm just throwing it together now. I'm preparing a quiz for you, Alan.
Is this a Pokemon or is it something I've just made up?
Yep. That's exactly what it is. It's going to be fucking comic gold.
Well, you know the four that I know of, so...
No, this is good.
But this is anything past the first generation of Pokemon, you won't have a fucking clue.
Right, I've watched this film. It didn't help me in my pursuit of knowledge. When I say pursuit, obviously, I was being sarcastic. But do you want to try and explain to me what Pokemon is as a cultural
sure.
phenomenon?
Soul, you go.
Okay, well, essentially, it was a video game, a Japanese video game made in, was it 1995, Calvin, or was that when they localized it to?
No, I think it was 95, and then it was localized a couple of years later here.
I know it's Nintendo.
Nintendo own, I believe, 2/3 of it, or something like that. It's a weird rights thing where the Pokemon Company have a stake in it, and they're separate somehow. It's kind of like Disney Pixar, where there's like different company. But yeah, essentially it's one of Nintendo's many flagship franchises, along with Mario and The Legend of Zelda. And yeah, so it was made as a video game, and that spun off into countless other mediums and became a huge craze in the 90s. I think the average layman, parents in particular, all thought it was based on a cartoon or card game to begin with, like you did. And so there's a kind of prevalent idea that it's really crass marketing, and they invented 151 things, and the gotta catch 'em all element was you've got to buy every single toy, and that's not true at all. It's just video game mechanics are that you have to collect things. So they made 151 things for this game that you had to go out and collect as part of the game, but that obviously lent itself very well to marketing. But I don't think it was nearly as cynical as people make out. And yeah, the game is it's an RPG, simple little
Question,
battle
what's an
thing.
RPG?
I knew that was coming.
Stands for role-playing game. But
I've done a bit of that in my time.
But it's
I didn't know that you could do video games of it.
Well, believe me, you can. They're usually Japanese. But yeah, I mean, it's really a genre of game, and it typically means you level up, and there are stats and maths and things involved. It's that kind of video game. And Pokemon's a fairly simple RPG, though it does have quite a lot of depth if you really want to get into all of that. But essentially, it is. You collect these little monsters, you train them up, and then you battle them against each other. And because it's the world of a video game, that's not as barbaric as it is when you sort of convert it into other mediums, such as film.
Yes.
And it's interesting, actually, because the games have even started to get a bit inward and introspective and explore the whole cockfighting parallels within them. Some of the last few games have had, Pokemon resistance groups and things like that, and it always feels a bit ethically unsure of what it's doing.
Some of the more recent ones have felt a bit too preachy in that regard, I think. I think Pokemon works best when it's very simple, like in the first few games, when it's just you are a 10-year-old and it's this open world, you're just out exploring, and there is a story and you are forced into it a few times, but sometimes you just happen upon it. Whereas I think some of the more recent ones rely too much on cutscenes and character building.
I just want to play the game. I mean, I love the story side insofar as I love, they added a Pokemon a while ago that was like a sand castle, and all the Pokedex stuff was going on about how you'd find the bones of its victims buried beneath it and all this sort of stuff. I love all that. But
Diglett.
Yes.
Put that one on the list.
Yeah. But yeah, it's weird because they keep bringing up the whole Pokemon rights and ethics of making them fight in the games and the more recent ones. And it's a bit like, just don't draw attention to it. Because you're ultimately going to come down on the side of, let's have a Pokemon battle. So... I don't know, unless you're doing like a really like a Last Jedi-esque genre deconstruction that ends with your character giving up Pokemon training because they decide it's cruel and no more Pokemon battling in the game. I don't really know why you'd even go there.
Well, we'll get to this when we talk about the film, but it is sort of talked about in that.
Kind of, I guess, yeah.
Not really addressed as such, but it does... Well, it came up in my notes anyway, but anyway. You keep them in little balls.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They like that. Do they eat?
Yeah. I don't think you have to feed them, but you certainly can feed them.
It's a feature in some of the games now where you can feed them berries and things, but it's not like a Tamagotchi where you need to, feed it every day or whatever. It's like if you feed it more, then it's happier, and then if a Pokemon's happiness increases, you can do more things with it.
And if you feed them certain foods, it'll affect their stats and things like that as well.
Yeah. So if you give them calcium, for example, and that'll increase their attack or speed or whatnot.
That is a thing from the games, yeah.
Now, am I right in thinking that these monsters, these pocket monsters, they evolve in some way and become something else?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So evolution in the world of Pokemon is basically you level up and they transform into a more powerful but similar Pokemon.
Is it considered a different thing, or is it like is it a different card?
Yeah, it's it's like a tadpole going to a frog. That's kind of what it's seen as.
And in the anime, they established that if a Pokemon evolves, it might not necessarily have the same personality that it previously had. So we see that with Ash's Charizard over the course of the original series. It goes from being a very meek and mild and loyal Charmander to a boisterous, petulant Charizard. Yeah.
Puberty.
But that was the anime trying to do a game mechanic, which is something the anime would often weirdly pick up on. There's a game mechanic that if you train up a Pokemon to be too powerful, too high a level, you train them up in levels, Alan, from 1 to 100, and you have to earn badges from the gyms throughout the thing by battling stronger trainers. And you get these basically there's kind of boss battles, essentially. Each one earns you a badge, and each one will let you command Pokemon up to a certain level. So it was meant, because there was a trading mechanic, it was meant to stop you from trading with a friend for a level 100 Pokemon and just like walking through the whole game without any challenge from the start. But in the cartoon, that meant that he just had a Charizard that would like set fire to him when he told it to do anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now there's a Pokemon, right? Okay. So let's say there's a Pikachu.
Yeah.
Is there only one Pikachu, or can everyone have a Pikachu?
Oh, it's like a species.
It's a species. So do different Pikachus have different personalities and stuff like that?
Yes.
And does that come into play? Do they all look the same?
As you saw in this film, there's a Meowth that can speak. That's not usual.
Yeah.
But there are exceptions to this. There are things called...
Most of them don't speak, right?
Most of them don't speak.
Certainly in the games, very few of them speak.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's one or two that have done over the years, but
Yeah.
And do the ones that speak, do they all like crap puns?
No.
Not in the games.
Just that
no.
one? Just that one, okay.
Yeah.
And there are things called legendary Pokemon, which are the exception to the rule where there is only one of them. Is that correct, Calvin? Or
Yeah.
I know I lost track when they added all the mythical and all these other categories.
Oh,
of
yeah.
Pokemon.
Well, a legendary is like Zapdos, Articuno, and Moltres, the legendary birds, and Mewtwo,
is Mewtwo
would be...
a legendary?
Yes, Mewtwo is a legendary, whereas Mew would be mythical. And the distinction is usually that in the games, you can always catch the legendaries in the games, but the mythical ones, you need to like download a code or something like that.
Go to a
some
special
specific...
event, Nintendo
exactly.
event or something, yeah.
Yeah. And the mythical ones are normally cutesy.
Just bear in mind, I am slightly phasing in and out as you're talking. So. I'm trying to learn as much as possible.
I really had to bite my tongue when it came to talking about the Pokemon personalities, because in the games they also have personalities, and those
That's
personalities and traits decide on their IVs and their stats and all that.
IVs?
They're individual values, which are the points which make up the stats for each individual Pokemon.
Okay. So what are the vital stats of a Pokemon? What are you measured on?
You've got HP.
Higher purchase.
Hit points.
Yep. You've got attack.
Obvious.
You've got...
Hang on, what's hit points then?
Health.
Yeah.
Okay.
How much of a beating it can take.
So it's taking hits, okay, yeah.
Then you've got attack.
Yeah.
You've got defense. Right. You've got special attack and special defense. And
I don't even understand the distinction between these. So
well, the distinction there changed. I think it was in Generation 4 when it changed. But it depends on the kind of attack that's being used. So if your Pokemon has a very high attack stat, a physical attack like Mega Punch would be powerful. If it's got a low attack but a high special attack, something like Ice Beam would be more powerful than Mega Punch.
Basically, is it getting its hands dirty, or is it like shooting lasers at you? I think that's basically
exactly it, yeah. And then there's also speed.
Fair enough. Is higher speed good, generally? Is that...
It's probably the most... Out of all the stats, it's probably the worst one to bother with. All it comes down to is who attacks first, which ultimately
can be good.
Yeah, it means you get, essentially you get an extra,
get the first punch
attack. Yeah, it can make a world of difference. But then, having said that, under certain circumstances, attacking second can be strategically advantageous.
True. It's all a big mind game, Alan.
Yeah, I mean,
strategy.
So, like, if your Pokemon loses a battle, does it die?
No,
it faints.
They only ever get knocked out.
So they never die?
They never die. They're basically immortal.
Oh, well, that's all right. That makes the fighting them making them fight each other a bit less.
Well, I mean, they can technically die.
In the story world of the game, they die. There's ghost Pokemon in the first games, that you encounter. There's Pokemon burial grounds and things. Like, they can die, but within the mechanics of the game, you will never see one of them die. You'll never kill them.
In the fight. Okay. What if you, stamp on its head?
Depends on the Pokemon, I think.
Yeah, if it was a Magnemite, you might not have much luck. But
Right, this is the other thing. Now, the Pokemon are very diverse. So, so that obviously makes a difference. So, is it just a number? Like, you have this attack, you have this defense? Or does it matter if, this Pokemon, shoots fire, and this Pokemon is fireproof? Does that make a significant...
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
This is something we've not gone into yet. The types, they've all got types. So there's a kind of rock, paper, scissors dynamic to them, sort of, which is essentially... So the obvious one would be the starting triangle. So water is super effective against fire. Fire is super effective against grass. Sort of plant-based Pokemon, essentially. And then grass is inexplicably super effective against water, just so that there's a kind of triangle there. Yeah. But it's more complicated than that. Normal Pokemon attacks don't affect ghost-type Pokemon, because, if you try and punch a ghost, your fist goes through it. Electric Pokemon, or electric attacks, can't affect ground-type Pokemon because they're grounded. They are super effective against flying Pokemon, even though they should have no effect against flying Pokemon. That's always bothered me. It should be the other way around, shouldn't it? Really? It should be super effective against Pokemon stuck in the ground. No effect.
And yet
against
flying type attacks are not very effective against electric types.
Yeah. I think that's based on a logic of, well, if you electrocuted like a chicken, it'd probably kill it.
Or an elephant.
Yeah.
Oh.
But obviously, if you're not
again?
making contact with the ground, you're not going to
Topsy.
So yeah, there's a whole...
Okay.
There's a fairy
Now,
type they just added in one of the later games.
Would I be right in thinking, so if you started off in this in 1994 or whenever it started, you sort of... the game has grown. So if you tried to come into it now, is there too many levels? Is it like you have to start at the beginning and work it out as you go along?
Well, this is what the franchise is having problems with, I think, because they released some games very recently, the Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee games for the Switch, that deliberately dumbed down a lot of the mechanics and tried to make themselves a bit more accessible to younger players, because I think the franchise itself finds it in this weird place where it is quite clearly geared towards children, but then there are people like me and Sol still playing it. And like a lot of, I mean, me and Sol were the perfect age to be brought up with this. We were like, 8, 9, 10 years old when the series started and the games became big.
But I mean, I should add, I'm very much a casual Pokemon fan. Like, I love the game.
diehard.
That's it. I love the games. I'll play them all. I really enjoy them. But I'll just play them to have fun and get through them, and then that's it. Whereas Calvin is the guy who will then...
Are you implying that I don't have fun playing Pokemon?
Calvin's the guy who will then spend an extra several hundred hours a month mining shiny Pokemon by chaining wild Pokemon in the grass, which is a thing where you just monotonously walk through grass and like keep fighting the same rat Pokemon over and over and over until...
Yeah.
Do you have fun doing that, Calvin?
Well, I don't go for the rat Pokemon, obviously, Sol. That would be pointless. I go for the ones that I like Magnemite.
Have you got shiny Magnemite?
I haven't, actually.
My problem with shiny Pokemon is I think there's only 2 or 3 examples where I like the shiny colours more than the original colours.
Yeah, most of them just go a weird, like, green shade for some reason.
Yeah, like a weird slight tinge, like they look ill.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm the mega fan. I have played all of the games I used to own because they always released them in pairs, like Red and Blue, Gold, Silver. Until recently, I would buy both copies of it.
I was going to say that's another distinction between the two of us. I will pick one of the copies of the game and play like Red or Blue, Gold or Silver. Calvin buys both of them, even though they're the exact same game.
Not so much anymore.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, right? Let's say it's the late 90s, I'm 10 years old.
Hang on, Calvin, am I correct in thinking at one point you bought an extra Game Boy so that you could trade with yourself?
I didn't buy well, I mean, like how some like Nintendo consoles were backwards compatible?
Yeah.
So that like your old DS you could use to trade with your new DS. That's what happened, really. I always wanted to upgrade my Nintendo DS to...
But it was still... It wasn't like you went DS and 3DS. This was like a DS and a DS Lite or something.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Let's say I'm a 10-year-old in the late 90s. I want to get into Pokemon. My pocket money is about £5 a week. Is it realistic? What am I looking at here? How much am I going to have to beg the parents?
What are you trying to get into?
I don't know.
The cards,
Pokemon. I don't know what.
The toys, the video games.
No. Okay, I'm very practical, so I want the game, obviously.
That's the best purchase you'll make because
I want the cards. I want to trade cards at my local GameStop. But I'm not that bothered about merchandise that's just for its own sake. I want to have practical things.
One thing I will say as well is I think Pokemon's seen as like nonsensical shit by most people. The video games are genuinely brilliant. They are some of the finest games out there. They're very well respected within the world of video games. The same can't be said for, the cartoon. I have no idea how the card game's respected within card game circles, but I doubt it's massively well respected. But the video games are genuinely great products and very, very high quality.
I can't imagine that there are any Pokemon fans who became a fan because of, purely the cartoon and are still with it now purely because of the cartoon. I think it's, those are the fans who picked up when Pokemon Go became a huge thing and fueled that being as mainstream as it was, but have since bored of Pokemon Go and given up on it.
Well, that's it. A few years ago, Pokemon Go became a thing. Basically, as far as I could tell, it is just a Pokemon game that was converted to be using on your phone, so it was suddenly a
not at all.
Again.
No.
Okay, because obviously it went more mainstream, and it was very much like, Pokemon is still a thing. I thought that had finished 10 years ago. So was that in the Pokemon world? Was that like a crass sellout thing that got the normies involved, or was it like a good thing?
I certainly know serious Pokemon players who turn their nose up at it and don't consider it a real Pokemon thing. I thought it was a good bit of fun, but it was very much its own thing, separate from the real games. That was an app, really. You go out and it puts a little thing of a Jigglypuff over your camera, so you hold your phone up and it looks like there's a thing in the real world, and you catch these things that are given GPS values, so they exist, quote unquote, exist within a real place in the world.
It's the augmented reality thing that is its main selling point, because you can be walking down a street and you look at the app and it's like Google Maps, and it shows your character like walking down a street, and then all of a sudden Pikachu will appear, and you hit the Pikachu, and then it shows up as if it's like on the street in front of you, and then you
using
throw
the camera
Pokeballs
on
at
your
it.
phone.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's the appeal of it initially.
I thought it was an incredibly innovative, wonderful little game, but in terms of proper gameplay, it wasn't much of a game. It was just a sort of,
walk around, catch them.
Yeah, you're not really, battling isn't really particularly, I think you just hit a button over and over again, essentially.
Yeah, I got into it quite a lot since about October. I've been playing it quite religiously for about 7 months now. Like every day I will be on it.
Hang on, you started Pokemon Go 7 months ago?
Well, no, I got it when it first came out.
It was popular. 3 years after it was popular.
I got it when it first came out, like everyone did, and like Saul said, I was one of those diehard Pokemon fans sort of turning my nose up at it, and a large part of that was just it was very boring. There wasn't really much in the way of things to do. You just caught them, and then that was it. And then because it started out with just the original 150 and they didn't want to release that many, you just ended up catching Pidgeys and Rattatas over.
There was no reason
again.
Or rhyme to what you could catch as well. It wasn't like, go for a walk at the seaside and you'll find a Krabby and a Poliwhirl. It was just randomly generated. You could just, in theory, you could sit in bed and catch everything, if they were going to spawn near you. It was... Yeah.
Whereas now they have missions and things, so it'll be like, catch 5 bug-type Pokemon or evolve 3 Pokemon, and then you'll get an extra, prize for doing that. And they did some like extra long mission like story. It's kind of like a story mode sort of thing where you have to do so many tasks, and then you get to catch a Mew or a Celebi or some other kind of mythical Pokemon.
Because the beauty of these things, these crazes when they go mainstream, is idiots who take it really seriously. Like when someone spends their entire life savings on Beanie Babies or something like that.
I thought you were going to say like when someone spends their entire life savings on Smurf berries on an app, but yeah.
I don't know what that means. But, okay.
I mean, obviously that's a barbed comment towards probably myself, Alan. And
no, I know you haven't.
Some sort
but the thing is, Calvin, I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about you because obviously you're just playing the game. I'm talking about the people who like quit their job to become a Pokemon trainer or whatever they call themselves. That's my favourite part.
If I could quit my job and make money as a quote-unquote Pokemon trainer, I would in a heartbeat, wouldn't you?
But here's my point is, Saul, that you understand in the real world that doesn't happen. That will not happen.
Yeah.
Some people have got YouTube channels like dedicated to their Pokemon Go.
Well, some people
playing.
have YouTube channels dedicated to James Bond, but it doesn't mean it's a respectable thing to do with your time.
Like, there's another thing that you can do in Pokemon Go, which is, I hear it's good for sociability, and it's, they do things called raids, where you can team up with a load of people, and at certain points during the day, Pokemon, like rare Pokemon, will appear, and you all get together as a group, because you need to be like a minimum of 5 people to have a chance to defeat this thing.
I was still playing the game when this was introduced to it. And it became very, very quickly apparent that this is not a concept that's going to work outside of Japan. Because you'd go to these raid Pokemon as they appeared, and no one would ever turn up.
Yeah, I mean, there are like chat rooms and things and groups, and I've recently joined one of them.
But that's it. You need to join something like that to make it remotely viable over here. Yes. I think in Japan, you can just walk down the street and go to a raid, and there's probably like 10 other people waiting for you, and it's a lot more. I mean, that might be wrong, but that's the impression I get. But
I was very nervous about approaching the people outside Wimbledon Station. I just sort of lurked a bit. And
I mean, there were weird, sort of strange, almost sociable, but not quite things that happened at the height of Pokemon Go being a thing. I must say, I remember going for a walk in Yorkshire Sculpture Park, which was wonderful for Pokemon going, because pretty much every sculpture's a checkpoint. And, it's full of Pokemon. It was great. And I remember sitting down. There was a point in between 3 statues, and 3 people had set off lures. And it was just like all of Yorkshire Sculpture Park were just coming and sitting down in amongst these trees and sat on their phones catching Pokemon for half an hour. And no one was talking, but it was really nice. There was a nice feeling of community despite no one actually interacting properly. It was very nice. And then there was a time I went to a gym near where I used to live, and I was battling the gym, and then a guy in a white van pulled up like on the street, and I was like, oh, white man van, a bit dodgy. Not quite sure about this. And I saw he was on his phone, and then I realised, oh, he's battling the gym as well. And so me and the white van man have got a kind of a connection now, even though we're not, even though he's not getting out of his van. we'll just share this little moment, and then. So, I mean,
that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pokemon doesn't see, class or colour or creed. You can be anything.
Unless you're a fucking Team Yellow cunt.
And what? I'm Team Yellow.
So is there a class structure to the Pokemon themselves? Are there some that are better than others?
Yeah, completely.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them are just inherently stronger and more powerful than others.
But I think part of the mass appeal of the series is that, especially now, there are so many Pokemon that you can always find the one for you, at least. There's always going to be...
Do you find it, or does it find you? Is that...
I've always been very much just, I'll train up the Pokemon I want to, because I like the look of them kind of guy. But I know people who will train up the strongest Pokemon or the best strategic team they can think of. But then even now there's so many of them, there's always something that will be stronger than that. Do you know what I mean? Even if that's a really strong Pokemon, there'll be some combination of other Pokemon that aren't necessarily, as broadly speaking, as strong, but they'll be better than that combination, and that's always quite nice with it, I guess.
Sol, I have a question for you. Sol,
Sure.
What is Calvin's favourite Pokemon?
Oh, it's going to be a really shit one. I know Calvin likes Houndour, which is a weird one. Is it Houndour?
That would be in my top 6, yes, for sure. Well, Houndoom, really. It's called.
I meant Houndoom. I just forgot which way round they were.
If you get the line right, then that's fine, the evolutionary line.
See, this is the thing. Calvin's someone who's really embraced later generations, whereas I'm a lot closer to a purist who, because you'll really upset a lot of people who still play the games by saying this, but I think what I'm about to say is very much the kind of prevailing overall opinion, and that is that the original 150 were the best, strongest bunch of designs. The next generation had a load of great Pokemon added to the mix, and sort of every generation since, it's been a bit more like, really? We're kind of running out of ideas now. And that's not to say there aren't some brilliant extra, Pokemon added to the mix down the line, but you can feel it's kind of starts to take its toll on them as they go along, and there's some real shit added in some of the later games.
Well, yeah, because you have people who complain about the Sandcastle Pokemon, for example, or the Ice Cream Pokemon.
Yeah. People who complain about the rubbish bag one, and I thought that was one of the best Pokemon they've added in ages. That little rubbish bag, he's great. Trubbish.
Is he good at dancing in the wind?
No, not at all. He's a little fat man. He's great.
But when you compare that to like Muck, which is just a blob,
there's nothing to it. I love some of those. I like the ones that are anthropomorphized things that shouldn't be. I think a lot of people hate these. Like, they added an ice cream Pokemon and a candle Pokemon, but I really like them. I thought they're great.
Oh no, I do.
The candle one actually in particular is great. I think it's a really great design. But then those people who hate those always like the sort of Digimon-esque, it's the most badass, overpowered, amazing monster. It's massive and it's got scales and it's like a big dragon, and it's like... the legendaries are always shit now. Like, I hate the legendaries. They always over-design them. Like, there is something quite nice and neat about Mewtwo and Mew. I think that's why I think the original 150 are the best in terms of design, because they're just a lot simpler.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that. Yeah. So, coincidentally, is your favourite Pokemon a grass type?
No.
Oh. Psychic?
No.
Poison?
No.
Water?
Yes.
Oh, really? Brilliant. Is it...
Got it first time.
Is it Poliwhirl?
Nope.
Is
Krabby.
It one of...
This isn't a difficult... What did you say, Alan?
Krabby.
No.
Is it Krabby?
No.
Is it...
This should be a really easy
Starmie.
one. Oh, I do love a Starmie, but Starmie will regularly make it into my final team in games whenever I play them now.
It's a very good one, yeah.
But no, it's not Starmie.
It's not just Blastoise, is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
I can love a Blastoise. My sort of standard team when I'm playing a new game now typically ends up being Blastoise, Charizard. They're usually in there. Who else? Oh, I love a Groudon. But I don't know if legendaries count in quite that way.
I don't like them all that much.
I love Espeon.
Oh, yep, great.
I like Steelix a lot, but he's quite weak, Steelix. I often
slow. A lot of weaknesses.
Double weaknesses because of the type combination you got. So I often end up not bothering with him. I think in the most recent playthrough, I ended up using a Zeb Striker or whatever they're called quite a lot.
The giraffe zebra thing.
The electric zebra man, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. I like quite a lot of them. Right, Calvin.
Excellent, yeah.
Calvin, your favourite. Gengar's one of my all-time favourites as well. I love a ghost.
Yep.
What's your favourite Pokemon's generation, Calvin? Give me a whittle it down. I'll see if I can guess it based on that.
My favourite one is going to be from the first 150.
Oh, I think I've remembered another one you love, but it's not from the original 150. It's Gardevoir. You inexplicably love.
Oh, I love Gardevoir. Yeah.
Shittest Pokemon.
It's a fairy psychic type. It is very powerful.
Original 150. It's not going to be a good one though. It's not going to be like it's going to be some real sort of that one. Oh, you know who I love now? Who I keep putting in my team? The new Alolan Sandslash.
Oh, it's really good. Yeah,
I love it.
Steel and ice type. Bad for fire, but
oh, and I love a Crobat.
Crobat's great. Yeah, I like the Alolan Ninetales, the ice fairy.
Is it a Golduck?
No, but I do really like a Golduck. I played that in the recent run through.
Is it a Dugong?
No, but again, I do quite like that.
Alan, do you want to take a guess?
No.
Shall I give you the type so we can at least whittle it down?
Yeah, go on then.
Okay, it's an electric type.
Ah, and it's not Magneton, because we were already talking about Magnemite before.
It is Magneton.
Oh, I was avoiding that because I assume... Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
That's a weird favourite to have.
I knew you were going to say that.
I prefer Magnemite to Magneton.
Oh, I like Magnemite. I like them both better than Magnezone, who is their Gen 4 third evolutionary.
I like Magnezone more than Magneton. God, if people haven't played... Like, this episode's going to need a serious edit hack job for anyone to listen to it who's not played the games. Like,
let's bring back the everyman, Alan.
Well, this is it. I'm doing it live. I'm trying to let you... Because I know there's going to be real mental fans listening to it. They'll love it. Yeah, I'm trying not to hold you off too much.
Well, I think before we get into the movie and the series, should we talk about the card game in broad strokes? Because that's another really big part of the series.
Yeah.
Or at least it was.
That was sort of the main thing for a while. There were a lot of people who were massively into the cards who never played the games.
Yeah. Pokemon cards are a big part of my junior school life. I have, many a fond memory of trading with friends and emotional manipulation to gain shinies. I learned a lot, actually, about just human behavior through Pokemon cards at a very early age. Ever since I tricked Lee Lawrence into trading me his shiny Raichu for a bunch of worthless cards, purely because I played my little violin.
They got banned at my school pretty quickly, pretty swift.
Likewise.
Because they were causing such emotional turmoil.
Yeah, because the kids were getting in fights over them and so on. I mean, it was a good way to whittle out who was a bad egg and who wasn't. The kids who tried to, like, steal the cards and that sort of thing. It was like, oh.
I stole a card once.
Did you?
Yes. And I felt so bad about it, but for one lesson a week, we had to go to the opposite, the opposite class in the year's classroom, and I was sat at someone's desk, and I opened up his drawer beneath the desk, and I saw a Sandshrew card, and I coveted that card, and
of all
the next week it was still there, so I took it.
Of all the cards,
yeah,
I thought you were going to say it was a Charizard.
No, I didn't have the guts to take anything that significant.
Yeah. Well, I doubt you even noticed it. It was only a Sandshrew.
Yeah,
they were very common, the Sandshrew cards.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't actually buy a packet for so long because they were expensive. They were like £2.50.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I was going to ask.
Your money would not go far in the card game, Alan. Not at all.
What was that? This is £2.50 in sort of late 90s money.
Yeah, they were expensive. Yeah.
Wow. How many cards do you get in a pack then?
Like
11.
Yeah.
Do you get a piece of chewing gum with it?
Nope. If you were lucky, one of them would be shiny. I think
there was always a rare card in the mix.
Yeah.
But it could be a good rare card or a shit rare card. If you got a Charizard, was fucking jackpot. If you got a Charizard, you could flip that thing like no questions asked for about 20-25 quid, no problem. And like they were
cash.
Yeah.
Cash with other kids, or are you trading?
You could probably just take it down to like a little Pokemon card seller. All these little places sprung up selling Pokemon cards. There was a toy shop where I grew up that sold Pokemon cards, and I think they had, a kind of behind the counter
trading.
Say the magic word, and the shopkeeper would take you to his little stash behind there. Did it really annoy you, Calvin? There was a card given out, I believe, when this film we're supposed to be talking about was released in cinemas, and they gave out a Mew card, but it was like a really fucking shit, not part of the original deck Mew that wasn't. Are
you thinking of the ancient Mew?
Yes.
Because that was the second Pokemon movie. That was Pokemon 2000. But I'm pretty sure they did release a Mew card with this movie, but it was also along with an Electabuzz and a Dragonite, a Mewtwo and a Pikachu.
It did my head, and everyone had this ancient Mew and was acting like it was a really valuable, amazing, special card. But they were so abundant that they weren't anything special, and they weren't even properly part of the official card game. It really annoyed me.
I find this very interesting that this whole thing seems to be a sort of childhood introduction to, lots of emotional elements, but economics, sociology. Yeah, the kind of fake market value of creating a false level of scarcity.
Completely. Yeah, I learned about all this stuff from that. But more than just a card game, I think people our age are probably exceptionally well trained up to spot bullshit on the internet, fake news and stuff like that, because we lived through the era of Peekaboo and the Poker Gods, and the notion that if you pressed A, if you used the item finder on the van near the boat 100 times, then it would move and you'd find a Pokeball with Mew underneath it. Yep. And all these things.
No, I know.
For whatever reason...
It makes you skeptical as a human.
For whatever reason, in the early days of the internet, these Pokemon cheat sites were all the rage, and they were just full of bullshit. Just absolute bullshit. Like, it was like chainmail. It was just, these rumors would start online and just get posted around every single website. And as a kid, you'd kind of just go along with it, like, well, I know it's probably not true, but what if it is? And Peekaboo, of course, turned out to be called Marill, and he wasn't even a particularly good Pokemon. He was just a bog standard little common thing in the second gen.
Yeah.
So there you go, Alan.
Sol went to a midnight screening of whatever that last Avengers film was. So what's the most pathetic thing you've done on the release of a Pokemon game? You ever queued up outside the shop waiting for it to open?
No, I just order it online.
Oh, is it that?
No, you and I, Calvin, went down to the shops together on opening day one day to buy
Is it one of those things where if you turn up at like 10:30, they're already sold out?
I think we did go quite early.
I think we did go in the morning, like, in case,
We might have even reserved copies, you know?
You might be right, actually.
So then did you like go home, because you lived together at the time, did you go home and then just go and sit in your own rooms and play on your own?
Yep.
It's a good social game.
And then I think we came out about 3 hours later and exchanged some notes and then went back. I remember we talked about the evolutionary animations in black and white, and I wasn't a fan. I don't think you were either.
I just remember us talking about the little companion that followed you around outside the Pokeballs in Soul Silver.
Oh, that was so good.
Yeah, we were both a big fan of that. We thought that was one of the best developments.
Obviously, from someone who has no real knowledge of this world, Pikachu was the talisman of the Pokemon. He's the poster boy.
Yeah.
The mascot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, was that a deliberate choice because he's cute? Is it something to do with the narrative, or is it just because he jumped out because people liked him?
The latter, I believe. They were for a while going to go with Clefairy, if that means anything to you. But at some point, they changed their mind and went with Pikachu. I'm not entirely sure what drove that, but Pikachu is a much better decision.
Clefairy would have been so alienating, like a pink fairy as the mascot.
Clefairy's just very bland, comparatively speaking. Pikachu's very striking. I remember the first time I saw Pikachu and it just being very like, what is that? That's it's bright yellow, it's got red cheeks, it's like a really bizarre, it's got a lightning tail. That's really quite cool, just in terms of character design.
Yes.
Plus, it's like a cat, rabbit, guinea pig thing. It looks like the things we choose to have as pets because we like the look of them, you know.
And it's got electric powers, which is more interesting than like what Moonbeam or whatever Clefairy can do.
We've talked a lot about the history of Pokemon as a cultural thing. Should we talk about the film that we watched specifically, or the TV show that predates it?
Because I'm really curious to know what you thought of it, Alan, especially in order to pad out the film for a feature runtime, they included a short, Pikachu's Vacation. And
I didn't see that.
depending on how you watched
you
this...
watched that, yeah.
Did you not watch it?
No. I mean, I bought this on DVD, so it's probably on there.
Oh, well, I think it's in the special features.
Well, I didn't look at the
But you'd have to
special
actively
features.
go looking for it in the special features.
No, it is. You press play and it starts. Or maybe it's a different DVD. Did yours come with the director's commentary?
I don't know.
Oh.
I'm sure it's fascinating, though.
It's a really
Oh.
it's a really fucking shit short film with no story and not funny. You're probably happy to have not seen it.
I would just love to have known it because it's Pikachu and a load of Ash, Misty, and Brock are the main kid characters, and they let out some of their Pokemon to go in a Pokemon park, and the entire thing is just the Pokemon. Like there's a Pokedex narration for a bit of it, but most of it is just Pika Pika, Snarble Snarble, Clefairy Clefairy, and it's just that for 20 minutes.
And occasionally they'll do a sort of scene break stint, which are these really trippy things with a Pokemon just in front of like a multicolored background going Bellsprout, 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 and then it'll just carry on as if it's a normal thing to do. I mean, Pikachu's Vacation is bad even by Pokemon cartoon standards.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So how long had the show been running when they made the film?
Oh god, I mean, there are literally over 1,000 episodes at this point. It launched in 1996 or 7, something like that.
6 in Japan and 8. Oh no, 7 in Japan and 98 in English
version,
language places.
And this film that we watched came out in 98, right?
Yeah.
Did it?
Yeah,
what it says on IMDb.
yeah. It was very.
Holy crap! They did that quick.
They were very quick.
Well, that's what it was. Was it? Did they just go, okay, we've got a hit first series, get the film out?
Well, bear in mind it's called Pokemon the First Movie. Anime is a very different industry to Hollywood animation, and they do just pump this shit out, and I think they're up to like the 20th Pokemon movie at this point. There's
What time did the movie come out in English-speaking places, though? Was it still?
I reckon it might be
1998?
1999, but I don't know.
Let's see if I can find
Okay, because the
I'm
next
gonna
one was
have a look.
Pokemon the Movie 2000, but then that means that it could have been either 99 or the...
It says USA was November 99.
Oh, okay then. Yeah, that makes sense.
Having a look
And
for
then,
the UK date.
UK, April 2000.
Oh, wow. That
Oh,
late.
Jesus.
Huh. But I do remember that second film came out very quickly, it seemed like. But this is because they basically do a Pokemon movie every year, pretty much, don't they?
Oh, yeah, they still do it. There's been like 20 of them.
Yeah. In fact, they've just, a couple of years ago, they released... I mean, it started to get weird. 2 years ago, they released a remake of the first episode of the cartoon, just turned into a movie, which seems like a very odd thing to do. One of the upcoming movies they've got is a remake of this film, Pokemon the First Movie, but done with CGI animation. Bafflingly odd thing to do. But again, I think this is just... You kind of just get this shit in Japan. People don't think it's weird over there.
So, Alan, coming into this as someone who didn't... Well, I was a religious watcher of the show. I knew all the characters when I went into this. I pity my mum and stepdad that me and my sister dragged along to the movie theatre to watch this with us. What was it like for you, Alan? Like, just deep dive into this? Like, was it incomprehensible?
Not incomprehensible, no. There was definitely elements where you go, right... But it's also simple as well. So it's like, look, here's these 3 characters. They're interacting. Oh, they're friends. They hang out. Oh, look, here's the bad guys. They're the bad guys. You know what I mean? It's all pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and there's no point in the movie where Brock says, "Oh, I love jelly donuts" whilst eating rice balls. So there's nothing that's going to really confuse you.
But then the actual sort of plot element of this story specifically, the Mewtwo thing. Like, there's first 10 minutes is like a real rushed kind of presentation of that. So was that a story for this film, or is that just his origin story? Because it felt very much like we need to just cram this in for people who don't know it, so let's just get that done in 10 minutes.
That is lifted from the games, and, I think there's a few little things you can read and so on. The backstory is that he was a clone made from Mew. Obviously, the clue's in the name. But they were very much adapting it for the film. They were like, well, we'll take that. He's kind of the big, bad Pokemon you find at the end of the game. So, I think they were embellishing it heavily. I do find Pokemon fascinating how people must perceive it, because so much of it is completely nonsensical, but it's because they're adapting video game mechanics to a story, and it just doesn't... it's like trying to make a very faithful Mario cartoon would just be absolutely off its fucking head. It would just be so weird. I think that's why just video games just don't tend to make sense from a narrative point of view.
Yeah, exactly. They're not built to do that. So.
But I think a lot of people then perceive that as these things are really dumb and stupid, crazy Japanese nonsense. And it's like, well, when you view it through context that you don't have, it's actually not that insane.
It felt like watching an episode of something that I'd never watched before. That like you're babysitting your 10-year-old nephew, and then suddenly he's like, "Oh, I want to watch this," and you just sit there watching it. I have no idea what's going on, but it's lots of shiny colours and stuff.
I don't know quite how the Pokemon cartoon series is regarded within the world of people who play the games. Personally, I think it's like absolute trash, cash-in shite. I have a certain degree of nostalgia for it, watching it when I was younger, but it's not a good TV series in my opinion. It has certain charm to it here and there. There's elements I like, but it's mostly just bullshit.
I mean, very repetitive. Well, I think like the first series is actually, because I've gone back and watched a bit of the first series, and it's
largely driven by my ex. When I think they added a load of it to Netflix, we did go back and rewatch pretty much the entire first season, I think.
It's all right for nostalgia's sake.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't good.
Some of it's a bit edgier than what it becomes later on, which I appreciate. Now it's a little bit too sanitized.
Really?
Yeah.
And you're not talking about the banned episodes that never made it over to
no,
the UK?
No, I'm not talking about those. Just in probably little bits. And I don't know if, like, working in children's animation, like, I do see things like, oh, wow. There are just bits, like Team Rocket cross-dress quite a bit, and they don't do that so much anymore. And just bits of violence every now and then. Some of the more extreme poses that I don't feel like they do anymore. Like, I certainly haven't kept up with the series, but I've gone and watched the occasional episode, and it's just very tame. Ash has no personality anymore. Like, he was a bit of a shit back
was
in
always
the day
a horrible,
when it first
whiny
started.
little knobhead.
Now he's just the blank, like, cipher of a character.
Okay, so we get this, we establish the bad guys and all that, and then someone brings a letter, and it's an invitation to a fake thing.
Yeah.
Yes, a Dragonite delivers a letter to Ash and his friends, which was very exciting as a kid, because Dragonite had hardly ever appeared in the anime.
It says, and he's very small. I always thought Dragonite was bigger than that. And the letter says, Mario, I've baked a cake. Come to the castle.
Yeah. So the letter basically is an invitation to Pokemon trainers to come to this undisclosed, well, no, wait, it is disclosed, location.
Only if you're man enough.
Yeah, so all the Pokemon trainers everywhere congregate at this port, but then there's a storm because Mewtwo can control the weather. Mm-hmm. And, yes, and it's all just a test. And only the true Pokemon trainers will
Pokemon trainers with Pokemon that are really good at swimming or flying through. And that's how you test how powerful a fire Pokemon you have, or how powerful a psychic Pokemon you have is how well it can swim.
I did think
fly.
of that actually, even with my little knowledge when I was watching this. I did think, well, if you've got a Pokemon that's good in the water, then you're all right, aren't you? Then, but if you haven't, then
I really it should have been a series of trials rather than just can you get over the ocean.
Oh yeah. Which they only do because Team Rocket
have a boat. A little rowboat. Not even like a good boat.
Right, this is what now when they first came up and they're pretending to be Vikings and they sound like Jamie Lee Curtis in Trading Places. So my immediate thought was like, why have these Vikings got really horrible like stereotype accents? But then of course it's not.
I should add, I do assume that you watched the dub version of this film, did you, Alan?
Yes.
Yeah, so you weren't getting the nuance of the original performances. You were getting all the voices that sound like this!
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
There's a gag in here about the Vikings that I don't get, and I hope that someone can explain it to me, but at one point, someone says, oh, I didn't realize there were Vikings anymore, and Ash says something like, they mainly live in Minnesota. And I don't understand what that means. Is that an American
it's a sports
joke?
Thing.
What?
Yeah, it's the Minnesota Vikings are American football team, some sort of sport team.
Oh, that's 20 years of wondering.
The cat is a big fan of the puns. So you said earlier the cat doesn't usually speak, but this one does.
Yes.
God, what's he called in Japan? Is he called like Nyan Box?
Oh, I don't know, actually.
He must be called Nyan something, I imagine.
Apparently, he doesn't do much in the way of puns in the Japanese, but in the Japanese version, he's more of a philosophical character.
Yeah. The rain is washing in a tide. For the Western audience. Oh, geez, I'm a cat. I hate water.
Yeah. But yeah, he taught himself to talk. There's actually one of my favourite episodes of the anime that delves into his backstory. He learned to speak in order to impress Lady Meowth, who was very high class.
I remember this, actually. Yeah, it's
so
inexplicable Japanese logic.
He locked himself in the attic and taught himself to speak. And it looked like really painful. He was in pain in that episode.
Yeah, they really do, mate. Yeah, play up the emotional turmoil of this thing.
Right. Is it all making sense to you so far, Alan?
Well, I mean, it was basics. I understood. There's a brief thing about a nurse that's missing. That you think that
Nurse Joy,
and then one of the characters is
Nurse
like,
Joy.
Oh, she's really fit.
She's
I like
so
her.
sexy.
That picture on that wanted missing poster is really cute. Is that character? Is that what he does? Is that his thing?
That's his defining trait. That's all he has in the way of personality. Oh no, he can cook as well.
Ladies.
Yes,
and he loves jelly donuts that look like rice balls. That's another thing that comes up a lot.
He loves turning.
Is that a translation thing then? Is that?
Yeah, that's because they didn't think that English audiences would know what a rice ball is. So
even as a kid, I remember watching it and being like, well, that looks like a ball of rice, not a donut.
Confusing.
Yeah,
because like a donut to me is a ring with like a hole in it, or like a jam donut, and this didn't have jam in it, or looked like it was made of any kind of pastry, or
Why is he eating it with chopsticks?
But yeah, he's really horny and he fancies
every woman. But especially Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny, who, like, they're sisters. Every single town has a Nurse Joy and an Officer Jenny, and they're all related to each other and look identical.
Yeah.
Which is just because again, that's adapted from the games, because in the video games, you go to a poker center and it's identical every single town, just because, they were using that was how it was programmed in, with the same character design each time. So in the cartoon, they sort of leaned into it and were like, well, it's lots of different characters, but they all look exactly the same. Self-aware.
Fair enough.
So they all get to Mewtwo's island, and Mewtwo has gathered them all there because he wants to clone their Pokemon.
Do you like this, Calvin? It's a bit like James Bond, isn't it?
What, cloning?
The little island lair.
Oh yeah, no, it's fine. It had a bit of a HR Giga sort of vibe to it, I thought.
Would you have liked it if Mewtwo was in a revolving chair and he had like a little bald man, like Danny DeVito, on his lap that he was stroking?
We get a lot of sort of gratuitous CG animation in these bits with doors opening and stuff. Did you know that was specifically done for the English language release?
No, I didn't know that.
I learned that listening to the commentary.
To make the film look fancier, because it looked too shit otherwise for cinemas. And I'd want to be going, why has this been put in a cinema? This is no better than what's on TV.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. I mean, they didn't say that in so many words. The commentaries with the English... They call him the English language director, but by looking at his IMDb page, it seems that he was just the voice director.
The translator would come to them and say, do kids know what rice balls are? And he'd go, no, just say it's a jelly donut. Say it's a jelly donut, all right?
Well, this is it, because they had him and the writer on, and I was just listening to it, and they really talk like with a great deal of ownership over the movie, and talk about, oh yeah, we did this and we did that, and I'm like, oh, I'm surprised at that.
So when it comes to translating such as this from a Japanese show to an English show, It can't just be a literal translation because there must be some cultural things that they have to change, like jelly donuts.
Yeah, and sexualization of children that wasn't permissive.
Is that big in Japan?
Well, the infamous banned episode of the show was, as I referred to it earlier, but it might come out in the edit, was an episode where there's like a swimsuit contest or something, and Misty's very upset because she's flat chested because she's not had her tits coming yet because she's not old enough, and Jesse and James make fun of her with an inflatable boobs at one point. I think James maybe dresses up as a woman and they pump up his breasts and say like, look, these are bigger than yours, aren't they? Ha! and when they brought that over here and to America, they were like, yeah, that's not gonna play. But also there was I do remember in a past episode getting you to look this up, Alan, but you probably don't remember it. Just Google Pokemon Jinx.
So,
Do you want to describe that?
It's like a gollywog with tits and blonde.
Yeah, so that is a real cultural thing where that's Jinx is sort of based on a fashion movement in Japan. There was certain, I don't know if it's still a thing, but there was I don't know what they called it, but it was this kind of prevalent for a while, certainly, where Japanese girls would get, a ridiculous fake tan and massive blonde wig and push-up bras and then do their lips up. And it'd be like having a Pokemon now called, Chavmon or something. But, it's kind of like a jokey reference to this particular way of dressing in Japan. But then you take that to America, it's going to be perceived very differently because we don't have that, through no fault of its own. It's going to be seen through racial lens. So they made Jinx purple instead of black. At a certain
I was going to say, I noticed some of these pictures she's black, some she's purple.
Yeah.
Is that a deliberate
And
choice?
there was an episode called like Holiday Hijinks or something like that was, I think, just completely banned from English language circulation because it was like, we're not even going to get into it. It's not worth it. And there was another one where there's a character who's just got a gun. He's like a Clint Eastwood character, and he just keeps flashing his firearm and pulling out a gun and aiming it at everyone, and it's sort of a running joke. And again, they were like, yeah, let's not do that.
It doesn't play in America because that actually happens.
Exactly.
It's not funny over here.
Yeah.
So this is all about cloning. Cloning's a big thing in this, which is why I asked earlier if there was if a Pokemon was just a Pokemon or if there was loads of them. It's like a species thing. Mewtwo is a genetically engineered sort of hybrid of things to make him better and stronger, fitter, more productive.
And there's only one Mew, or at least they're an incredibly rare Pokemon that you struggle to find more than one of. So it's also like, it makes sense why they want to clone Mew.
But then he clones the other Pokemon, and they're just clones, but he makes them soulless, so therefore they fight better, or something like that.
I think
Was it something?
I think the idea is that he's whittled down the greatest Pokemon, champions of the world by making them travel across a lake. Therefore, cloning these particular Pokemon will give him an army of incredibly powerful Pokemon. I think that's the idea. It's not a particularly good one. You'd be better off just creating an army of Mewtwo clones.
Yeah.
All right, so evil Pokemon. He's got all the evil Pokemon. They have a fight. They kill Ash. They turn him to stone. I've not skipped anything significant, have I?
Well, Mew appears.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason, I don't know whether it's just drawn there from psychic whatever. I don't know. Because it seems to be kind of indifferent.
Mew was a big deal, Alan. I don't know if you quite are aware of the significance of Mew to fans of the games and stuff back then, but in the game, you could catch every single Pokemon, apart from...
You got to catch them all.
Yeah, apart from Mew. There were 150 Pokemon, except there weren't. There were 151, and Mew was a special Pokemon who you could only get officially by going to these kind of special Pokemon events that were, particularly in the UK, incredibly hard to come by. But I think pretty much everyone just ended up, getting a Game Genie and hacking into the game, and then trading with a friend and doing... There was a thing you could do with trading in the game where if you pulled the cable out at the right time, you would create a clone of the Pokemon, because you'd like send the Pokemon to the other person's game before they sent the Pokemon over to you, so you'd essentially create 2 of the Pokemon you wanted to copy.
Wow. So is this film
no, I don't think
talking about that?
I
Is
don't
this
think
like
it was
having a
that
little
clever.
cloning gag?
No. Sadly not, I don't think so.
So you also learned how to cheat society.
Yeah.
It really is a learning experience, the whole Pokemon thing.
Yeah, no, it really is. Yeah.
Pokemon, the original Pokemon Red and Blue were so much fun because they were so... Just something about how they were programmed, you could really fucking fuck around with the coding, even without any kind of cheat stuff. Like, I got as familiar... I don't know how, but I got so familiar with that game that it got to the point where I was, like, discovering how to create completely randomly garbled cities that you'd like fly to and just walk around, and it'd be like pieces of a house put together in a random order, and then you'd encounter like a wild Gyarados or whatever, and everyone knew all the cheats, Alan. The one where you go and watch the old man teach you how to catch Weedle, and then you fly to the island and swim up and down the right-hand side of the island, and Missing No appears, the fabled glitch Pokemon who wasn't Pokemon number 0. Who I'm still waiting to be made an official part of canon.
It'll happen eventually.
My favourite Pokemon, I think, Missing though.
Anyway, just to get back to the movie, because things kick off and it's cloned Pokemon v the original Pokemon, and Ash is in the middle of here, and then it's Mew versus Mewtwo, and Ash is turned to stone. Mewtwo has the Pokemon battle each other, and disables their special abilities, so they can't use their grass attacks and water guns and all that kind of stuff. So they're just basically pummeling the crap out of each other. And meanwhile...
what was the point of that? Can I ask? Because surely they're... Having special powers is part of the point of them.
Yeah, I've no idea. I've absolutely no idea. I think it's to make the fight... distinctive from what we would see in an episode, because then we're going to have the characters making sweeping statements about what Pokemon are and aren't supposed to do with their lives, and when the whole point of the franchise is, I mean, everyone's complained about this, but when the whole point of it is you catch this thing and it fights another thing, and now you're saying... Pokemon aren't meant to fight, not like this.
Yeah, not like this.
Yeah, but it was saying
this
like,
isn't
no, this is
sporting.
like proper fight. This is hand-to-hand combat. This isn't fair.
Yeah.
2 exact replicas fight. But because they are exact replicas, it is just like a big long punch-up, and they're just like slowly like pummeling each other, and getting tired.
Has anyone ever done a parody of Poker Face by Lady Gaga, but changed all the lyrics to be like, "Can't beat my Pokemon"?
I don't know if there's much satire to that.
Do you have an MP3 of it?
No, I don't actually. No, sorry. One sec, I just want to find some quotes from the movie, because it's around this point when the Pokemon are beating the crap out of each other. We get some pretty philosophical stuff coming from, especially Meowth and Mewtwo as well. I see now that the circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It is what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are.
Alan, does Judy like Pokemon?
No, no, sorry.
Do you not think she'd enjoy that hot tip there for a parody song?
It must have been.
I'm going to send it over to her. I'm going to say, "Can't beat my Pokemon." Lady Gaga cover. She'll love it.
So, are there any
meow 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 meow
Pokemon?
That's what it does at the start of the song. Do 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 meow 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 meow.
Are there? Calvin, are there any?
So unimpressed. It's because I'm sullying 2 of his favourite things by combining
No, you're not
together.
sullying. Like I have a cover of a version of Bad Romance on my iPod to the tune of Flying Hill Battery Zone, or whatever it's called, from Sonic.
Yeah, the film ends with a sort of strange moral tale of you shouldn't make Pokemon fight, which is an unusual thing to have in a world where they fight all the time. And what is it that makes Mewtwo learn this important lesson? Is it when? Oh, it's because
Magic tears.
Ash dies, and then they're all so sad that it brings him back to life.
He doesn't quite die. He gets turned to stone, and they're also sad that the tears pull together and bring him back to life, like reanimating him.
Yes. And is there any precedent for that in the world,
Nope.
or is that just some bullshit they threw in there?
Nah.
Just Japanese, isn't it?
So Pokemon tears don't sort of bring life or anything?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. And then none of it matters because Mewtwo erases everyone's memory.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
For no reason, really. I don't know why they couldn't leave them remembering what happened in the world of the show. I don't know, would that have been a problem?
I don't know.
Other than, well, I guess they'd stop fighting, wouldn't they? They'd stop Pokemon fighting.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's because I guess that they don't want them to really grow as characters. I mean, Ash has been 10 years old for 22 years now, and he never ages, he never really grows or changes as a personality. There's no really such thing as a character arc.
Occasionally you'll learn a lesson, but it's normally like,
Yeah.
wow, ghosts are super effective against psychic Pokemon!
So we don't need to go into this into much detail, but there have been about 22 other movies.
Do you want me to rate all the ones I've seen?
Oh, go on then, yeah.
Alright, so I'll save the Pokemon the first movie, I'll save that, we'll come back to that. But just to give you an idea of how I feel about these things, I don't know why I've seen these, but I have. Pokemon the movie 2000, 2 out of 10. Awful.
It's my favourite.
Oh, it's awful.
No, it isn't.
Alan, you would hate it. Pokemon 3, the movie, 3 out of 10.
Okay.
Pokemon Mewtwo Returns, 3 out of 10.
Oh, okay. I guess we can count that.
That's like the direct sequel to this last one. Pokemon Celebi, A Timeless Encounter, 3 out of 10.
Do you mean Pokemon Forever, Celebi, Voice of the Forest?
Yes. Pokemon 5, the movie, is the next one. I give that 2 out of 10. That's the Latias movie. It's like they just walk around a place that looks a bit like Venice. For Pokemon Jirachi, or Jirachi, I think they call it in the cartoon. Yeah. Wishmaker, 3 out of 10. Pokemon Destiny Deoxys, 3 out of 10.
Oh my god, how many of these have you seen? I wasn't expecting it to go on for this long.
Some bullshit with Lucario, 3 out of 10.
Okay, so we're at the movies now that were released in 2006.
Yes,
so
Seamanafany thing, 2 out of 10.
Right.
Diamond and Pearl versus Darkrai or whatever, 3 out of 10. Giratina and the Sky Warrior, 3 out of 10. Arceus, Conquering of Space-Time, that's basically the Pokemon equivalent of God, Alan. That's how far gone this franchise was at this point. 2 out of 10. Master of Illusion, Zoroark, Master of Illusion, 3 out of 10. Pokemon the movie, White and Black. This is when they released the same movie twice at once, but with the colour changed at one point or something, and it was literally the same film. So I gave one of them a 2 out of 10 and one of them a 1 out of 10, because, just crass bullshit. Don't put the same film out and say it's a different thing. Kyurem and the Sword of Justice, however you say that, 4 out of 10. Genesect and the Legend Awakened, 3 out of 10.
Why did you start this by saying I'll rate the ones that I've seen and just list all of them?
Diancie and something, 2 out of 10. Pokemon and the Hoopla Man, Clash of Ages, 4 out of 10. That's quite high up. And then, what's the big ring thing called, Calvin? The Volcanion?
Volcanion.
Gave that a 2 out of 10. Haven't seen
So
the
you have seen them all?
No, I haven't.
Yes, you have. That's all of them.
No. Pokemon the movie, I Choose You.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
And I think there was one last year.
The Power of Us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
but that's so you've seen all the ones in the main continuity.
Oh, have they broken continuity now by remaking?
Well, I Choose You is just the first Ash getting Pikachu again and retelling a lot of his adventures with different characters and
the next one is just a remake of this one, but in CGI for some reason. But not even good CGI, shit.
Yeah, it looks really bad. Yeah,
as good animation as the original movie was made with.
Anyway, let me just quickly rate the ones that I have seen, which is only 4. So Pokemon the movie 2000, I would give a 5 out of 10.
Very generous.
Pokemon 3, the movie, Spell of the Unknown, I would give 5 out of 10. Okay. Pokemon Forever Celebi, Voice of the Forest, I would give a 3 out of 10.
Pretty bad, isn't it? They're saving a forest from being chopped down for most of the film, I think, if I remember.
Yes.
But what about this main film, eh? This first one.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the one that started it all.
It's like a bad episode of the cartoon, and it wears out its welcome because it's longer. So 3 out of 10 from me.
It's going to be a 4 out of 10 from me. There are bits in it that I like. Anything that has Team Rocket in it is great, and I really like the version of the song that they open it with.
I hate it. I love the theme tune from the cartoon. I hate the sort of dance remix version for the film.
Oh, I love it.
I thought you were going to be more generous than that. I'm surprised.
No, I mean, Movie 2000 and Pokemon 3 are 5 out of 10s, and they're my favourite ones, so... yeah.
But that's because you got an ancient Mew card when you went to the second one and you felt like you were hot as shit for a week.
I did. So, Alan, what about you? I'm really curious to see where you
Yes, Sir
stand.
Alan.
Well, it was a difficult one for me to judge because not only is it, I didn't really know much of the surrounding elements. Also, I appreciate that this is a film not made for me. It's not made for my demographic. I tried to sort of see it somewhat objectively, and I gave it a 4.
4?
4.
Oh,
A 4.
Yeah, very
Because I
good.
thought it's just like if I was an 8-year-old and all these nice shiny colours, I'd be like, oh yeah, cool. There's enough story to make it hold together. That's not all you need. Funny cat.
Yeah, well, there's a few cats. There's at least 3 cats in it.
Nice.
Well,
Okay.
Alan,
Well,
should we do my little game?
yes.
Where you tell me, is it Pokemon or
Nope.
Poker...
Or Nopamon.
No Pokemon. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Fwip.
I've got a secondary element
Whip.
to this game. I have to guess what it is, like what
Yeah.
animal type of thing it is.
Whip.
Okay, a fwip. A fwip would be like a giant whip. It'd be an animal that has a very whippy tail. I don't think that's real. I think that's a Nopamon.
Oh, good. That's a Nopamon to start with.
Oh, have you made these up yourself?
Yeah, I'm making them up on the spot, so then
Oh,
I'm
very
going to
good,
run
very
out
good.
of. So that's a point to you there, Alan. All right,
Okay.
all right. Dwebble.
Say it again.
Dwebble.
No. That's like, you're thinking of Dwayne The Rock Johnson there. I know what you're doing. I know what you're trying to get into my head. That's a Nopamon.
Dwebble is Pokemon number 557, actually, Alan. It evolves from Crustle, starting at level 34.
Is it a pebble then?
It is.
No, it evolves into Crystal.
Oh, sorry, it does. You're right. Yeah. It is a dual type bug/rock Pokemon. It's like a little hermit crab that lives inside a rock or a pebble. Dwells in a pebble. Okay.
Okay.
All right. That's a point to me. Okay. Alamamola. Now, it might have
Say it
sounded like I was struggling to read it out, but maybe I was putting that on to throw you.
Just say it again for me.
Alamamola.
And how do you spell it?
ALOMOMOLA.
Now, it might be something tooth based. I want to say Pokemon.
It is a real Pokemon. That it's a water type Pokemon. It's like a little fish. All right. What about Guzzlord?
I bet it's got a big mouth. Big old mouth on it. Guzzlord. I think that's a Pokemon.
Yeah. I mean, it's technically an Ultra Beast, but they are basically Pokemon. Slurpuff.
No, that's a Nopamon. You've tried to combine two different things there to throw me off.
What am I trying to
A
come back?
Slurpachew and a Pokepuff.
No, it's real. That is the Meringue Pokemon, Alan. It evolves from Swirlix when traded holding a whipped dream. It's a fairy type Pokemon, number 685. You ready?
Yeah.
Prinky.
Prinky. No, that's Nopamon.
Ah, you got me.
Yay, stupid names. you haven't got the gift of Pokemon names.
All right. Slabotion.
Slabotion. No, that's a Nopamon as well.
You're really good at this, Alan.
can see right through it. How's he doing it? All right. Helush.
Say that again.
Helush.
How do you spell it?
Helush.
That's a Pokemon.
No.
Oh!
Beat you.
Damn it! I thought that was going to be like a something with
like a helix.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
All right.
Or just something that's lush.
All right. Crocodile.
I think that's probably a Pokemon. Yeah, it's a crocodile-based Pokemon.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. It's a dark
Some of them are quite
/ round
straightforward.
crocodile Pokemon. All right. Skuntank.
That's a skunk with a tank on its back. That's a Pokemon.
Close.
Yeah, it's a skunk Pokemon.
See, that's it. They're all a bit like the words they are.
Chandelure.
That would be a big chandelier type of Pokemon then, would it? I think you just made that up. It's a Nopomon.
No, it's a real Pokemon.
Oh, God.
Interesting.
It's a ghost / fire type. And it is a chandelier with, with little candly lit bits that have fire coming out of them.
See, I thought you'd just gone like, crocodile. They just change one vowel noise. I'll do that.
It evolves from Litwick.
Of course, Litwick.
Actually, it evolves from Lampent, but Lampent evolves from Litwick. All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Equode.
Equode, that would be some sort of horse-based thing. I think that's a Pokemon.
Nope, I made it up.
Oh, you just make up a noise then.
What, make up a noise for Equode?
Yeah.
Equode.
What would the Equode say?
Equode.
Is it a horse toad?
Yeah. The aquatic horse Pokemon. It's got a big throat. All right. Frogadier.
Yeah, it's a frog. It's a Pokemon.
Yeah, it is a Pokemon.
Does it have any deer in it?
No, it's like a little ninja.
Does it have big ears?
Evolves into a Greninja. Rufflet.
That's some sort of little dog. Pokemon. It's a Pokemon.
It is a Pokemon. It's not a dog. It's a little bird.
Oh, really?
Yeah. An eaglet. Jirag.
Durag. No, you just made that up.
Too good. This is really hard.
Calvin, you try and make one up.
Right, 1 sec. Sorry, I just need to. Esquilax.
That's some sort of laxative, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. I mean, you won.
You did really good with that, Alan. Like that was very
found my
good.
talent. Why have we finally ended up doing this episode?
Oh fuck
about
me!
Pokemon?
I forgot we haven't even mentioned it.
Well, Alan, because Detective Pikachu is inexplicably coming out.
I can't believe it. Have you seen the trailer, Alan?
Yeah, I kind of half watched it and then didn't pay much attention because I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
I mean, I can't wait to see this film, but it's purely for the kind of I can't believe this got through a studio system quality of it. It's not because I think it's going to be good. It was off the back of Pokemon Go. People were itching for, the big Pokemon movie. They courted the people involved and convinced them to do one. Inexplicably, instead of doing the obvious thing, which would be, something more obviously tied to the games people have played and about Pokemon battling, they went for a weird spin-off game that only came out, I think that year it was announced, called Detective Pikachu, which was like an RPG about like a crime puzzle solving game where you team up with a Pikachu who can talk. And they were like, yeah, we're going to turn that into a film instead. So that's the film. But most people I know, in a very casual capacity, are really quite excited for it and think it looks good, even though it obviously doesn't.
I think it looks about as good as it could do.
I mean,
it looks a bit like that. Do you remember there was that fake trailer that was circling the internet about 10 years ago? Pokemon Apocalypse.
Yeah.
It's a step above that.
But it seems to have taken a lot of inspiration from that, in that they've gone for disturbing photorealistic designs of Pokemon. Look, the obvious thing to do would have been just to
Who
make
Framed
them
Roger
look,
Rabbit?
yeah, just make them look cartoony and it's fine. Like, but instead they've gone for, well, no, like make it look like a really fucking disturbing lizard monstrosity with bulbous eyes and like make them look as fucking creepy as you can. And I think that's part of the appeal, honestly. I think that's part of why it's going down with so many people, because I think a lot of people like me are just like, what, really? And then Ryan Reynolds is voicing the Pikachu in it.
Yeah.
Again, inexplicably.
Inexplicably.
But is he doing it like Deadpool style, where it keeps making meta references?
I think
to
so.
The world and
I
stuff?
think so, yeah.
That's
It's a
just what he does
Pikachu
now.
who's addicted to coffee.
It's a Pikachu who can
apparently.
speak to the one main character, but then other people just hear him going, Pikachu! Pika, Pika!
Yeah.
Every time you do that, you just sound exactly like Chris Chandler.
And then what else is going on in it? I mean, the first trailer, I just thought, oh, this looks weak. The second trailer with I Need a Hero by Bonnie Tyler in it, I thought, this looks like maybe it's got a decent grip on the sort of mental territory it needs to break into to work. Maybe this will be good fun. I don't know. I think it's probably going to be really bad, but we'll see. I am excited at the prospect of it opening up a Pokemon cinematic universe. Not because I need crossovers, but just once they've established a Pokemon world, they're free to do whatever film set within that world that they want, and I think they will. I don't think they'll go right ahead with Detective Pikachu 2 if this makes loads of money. I think they'll go ahead with, this is a story about a Diglett that worked down the mines and had to come to terms with losing its mother. I mean, maybe not that, but they'll do like the Great Pokemon Race, or with all like Pidgeot racing around the world, around the Poke World in 80 days. They'll do some mad shit like that, and everyone will be like, "Where did that come from?" And they'll go, "Oh, Pokemon, innit?" You looking forward to it, Calvin?
I am actually, yeah. I haven't been to the cinema in a while. I think I will make the trip and pay the princely sum. I might go alone and get a beer.
Alan, you looking forward to it?
I mean, of all the Pokemon films I'd want to watch, I'm more likely to watch this.
I mean, I think it's a wise decision on one hand, because the Pokemon games don't really lend themselves to story. There's no real good narrative to jump onto in those games, so they pretty much just made up a story set in that world to fuck around with, It's kind of... I think that probably is the right approach in a lot of ways. I mean, I don't know how I would approach a Pokemon movie any differently. I probably wouldn't have gone for a Detective Pikachu that can talk. I would have probably gone for, like, Ace Ventura set in Pokemon World or something like that, but... Actually, in fact, I would do exactly that. That's my pitch. Get Jim Carrey out of the Sonic movie that he's in. He's playing Dr. Robotnik in the upcoming Sonic movie. Say, don't do that.
Yeah, that's going to be mental.
That looks similarly fucking bizarre, actually. Tell Jim Carrey he wants to do Pokemon instead. Have him reprise the role of Ace Ventura, but we call it, like, Ace Ventristic or something as a legally safe knockoff, and he's just him saving Pokemon and, like, running into Pokemon battles and being like, Pokemon battles are correct.
So what would you like to see in the future of Pokemon?
Well, I think everyone still wants a proper home console, fully fledged game, and they kind of keep saying, well, this is going to be it, and then it's not quite, because we finally were going to get that, and then it ended up just being a very blown up game on the same engine as the last few Pokemon games, but on the Switch, on a home console, but really pared back. And now they're doing this new one that's set in a world based on the UK, which... I mean, I'm sure it'll be good, but again, it looks very much like just another Pokemon game. And I want a, like, fully 3D environment. The camera can swing all the way round. It's like going for photorealistic graphics, and you can, like Breath of the Wild, you can just run and explore a big open world environment and catch Pokemon and battle them, and that's what I think everyone wants. And I do think eventually they'll get there, but no time soon.
Well, they'd be better off doing that than doing all of this terrible story stuff that they have taken to doing recently. Like, my problem with the Sun and Moon games is that it was like 2 hours of the playthrough. Like, at first was just tutorial, like getting introduced to all these characters that you don't care about. And I think at its pure center, Pokemon works best when it is just you're just playing as this character who's going off into the great wide world and encountering these crazy animals and just exploring. There's no exploring element to it anymore. It just feels very on rails.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The new games still feel very on rails, and you know, on the old Game Boy, on Red and Blue and Gold and Silver, it did feel like you were going out and exploring this big world, because within the technology available at the time, it was very expansive. But yeah, and that's what everyone wants. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't want that, so I don't know why they won't just give it to us. So yeah, there you go. That's the next game. That's our pitch for the game. And even if they want to pare it back and make it simple, like if you gave me a Breath of the Wild style map and there were only the original 150 Pokemon available in it, I'd be so happy just running out and catching them. And I mean, I'd rather have all of them, but if that was like the trade-off, Alan, if you were gonna start a Pokemon gym, what would your type be?
A Pokemon gym?
Yeah.
Oh god, we haven't explained that.
Don't bother.
If you were going to be a Pokemon trainer, what would your like elemental fighting type be that you'd go with if you had to pick one as your theme?
Which one has the most cats?
Probably Psychic.
What?
Do you think, Calvin? Or maybe Dark?
No, I would say normal. Meowth and Skitty.
Oh, you're probably right. Yeah, you're right. I was thinking of like, Delcatty.
Yeah, but then you are right. Like, oh, yeah, and they've got Purugly as well.
What's that meow autistic cat? What's that one called? Meowtistic or something?
Oh, yes. Oh, well, that one is Psychic. Yeah. Oh, there are a lot of cat Pokemon.
I don't want psychic nonsense. It's bollocks. All right. Flying then.
All right, Calvin. What's the best evolution of an Eevee?
Ooh, Espeon for me.
It is Espeon, yeah.
Yeah. Everyone loves
Alan?
Espeon.
Yeah.
Really? Alan would be some, like, Vaporeon bullshit.
Yeah, or maybe Flareon.
Flareon's a solid second place, I would say, after Espeon.
Are you guys making up names again?
Alan, can you do the poker rap?
Yeah.
Go. My name is Pikachu, and I'm here to say, catch 'em, gotta catch 'em all.
Gotta catch 'em all. Pokemon. Damn.
Brown. Charmeleon!
Wartortle, Mewtwo, Tentacruel, Aerodactyl,
Ammonite,
Slowpoke, Pidgeot, Arbok.
That's all, folks!
Can you do the Team Rocket and motto song?
Oh, yeah, I always found their motto bizarre and completely, like, nonsensical, because it's, like, the opposite of what Team Rocket does, and I don't know if that's
it's really weird, isn't it?
Let's see. To protect the world from devastation, to denounce all...
To unite all peoples in every nation.
To unite all peoples in every nation, to denounce the evils of truth and love, to extend our reach to the stars above. Jesse, James, Team Rocket, blast off with the speed of light, surrender now or prepare to fight.
Jesse James.
Meowth, that's right. Yeah.
Have you just got it, Alan? They've got some rivals at Team Rocket called Cassidy and Butch.
Should we talk about IV type some more, Calvin?
No. Let's call it a day.
Yeah.
You could do your Poke podcast another time. Your own
Pokecast, yeah. Pod.
I can't wait for us to do the next movie in tie-in with the Detective Pikachu sequel.
Yeah.
Which will probably happen.
I think will almost certainly happen. Detective Pikachu's poised to make a lot of money. Early tracking suggests it's gonna rake it in.